Hi guys, welcome to the DueDil Focus briefing. My name's Andrew Muirwood, and with me I have Cedric Mondes.
Hi.
And today we're gonna give you a bit of a talk through. I'm the head of customer insights at DueDil, and so I'm going to give you a talk through some of the key trends that have been coming out of the conversations I'm having with our customers, particularly in the area of finance.
And after that, I'm product manager at DueDil, and I'll give you a bit of a demo on how you can use the tool for your teams.
Okay, let's get going. So for those of you that aren't familiar, just a quick introduction to what DueDil is. DueDil is a tool for finding information about private companies, but Cedric will go into a lot more detail into exactly how that works. But here are some of the people that use this already. So I lead the customer insights team at DueDil, and we use a mixture of qualitative and quantitative research techniques to explore the needs of our customers, to validate future ideas, and to optimize our current product. And I've been working very closely with teams in a real variety of financial services companies, from banks and private equity firms to fintech startups and even independent accountants. I use qualitative research methods to identify the big problems and blockages faced by finance professionals. And I also speak a lot to industry experts within the subsectors within finance. This helps me to identify common patterns and trends across different types of financial organizations. And today I'm going to talk you through some of these findings. So within financial organizations, there's a lot of different teams that deal with company information and deal with private companies. And most of you attending today are in one of those teams, and each team has a very different question that they would like to answer. However, there is actually a common problem that all these teams shared, and that is how to make use of data about customers, suppliers, or acquisition targets in order to work more effectively. And this is, in light of the recent events, as I'm sure you're all very painfully aware or joyfully aware, the Brexit situation makes it even more important to really understand the companies that you're doing business with, whether it's from a risk or an opportunity perspective. And this challenge is most prevalent with private company data, which is what we're going to be talking about mostly today. So I'm going to take you through some big themes that have emerged from my research, and then for each theme, I'm also going to give you a more concrete example of a specific company or team using business information in the way that they work. So the first trend that I've become aware of is the idea of unification, and this involves combining multiple data types to give you a much richer picture of a company than using a single data type. So, for example, in relationship management, where they're selling complex or regulated financial products, it can be very difficult and slow process, especially if you're trying to find mid-sized businesses that aren't on the FTSE 250 or aren't on LinkedIn. It's tough. And then when you do find a prospective client, it can be really frustrating to, after spending time finding them and building a relationship with them, to find out later on that they fail credit or compliance checks. And so what we're finding is working for many of our customers is to build what's called an ideal customer profile, and where this is a desirable set of characteristics of customers, and we found that it's most powerful when it's built in collaboration between front and back office teams. So it includes both opportunity and risk factors. And to achieve this, you need multiple data types. You need to know financial information about the company, but you also need to know demographic, firmographic information, and also things like credit scoring, credit risk. And by including those characteristics in the search for companies, it prevents problematic companies from getting too far down the line. And this is actually a process. This way of thinking about finding customers is something that DueDil is using itself, transitioning to that strategy at the moment. The next area is filtering, and this is where you assign value to a specific characteristic of a company, and this makes it possible to surface hidden gems or uncover hidden information. And we think that private equity firms are the best in the business at filtering. For them, there's a huge upside from finding an investment opportunity that no one else knows about. And to do this, they will attach meaning to all kinds of financial and subjective factors, such as family-run businesses, or aging directors, or loss-making branches of bigger companies, and then this allows them to filter down to a short list of prospects. And this takes a lot of time and a lot of tools and a lot of manpower, but it's worth it for them because they can find that and leverage an undervalued diamond in the rough. Now, not all of us have access to the resources and tools of private equity teams, but we can use some of the principles that they use, and we can apply them to the way that we operate. For example, using flexible tools that allow you to traverse multiple data sets, taking an experimental kind of iterative approach to researching, and then finally making full use of a personal network to really understand or reach people behind the business. The next trend is speed. I think many of us are aware from our personal lives and professionally that B2B customers are really starting to expect a B2C efficiency and quality of experience when they buy financial products and services. Transactions like setting up professional indemnity insurance, organizing pensions, doing FX transfers have traditionally been slow and manual, but probably one of the biggest, slowest challenges is borrowing money through banks, and this is largely due to regulatory compliance and credit risk checks that need to be made as part of the onboarding process. But this has led to the rise of alternative finance providers who are able to turn things around much more quickly. Many of the startups across different financial verticals are using automation to remove friction from their customer onboarding process. For example, this is actually a DueDil customer example. When a business signs up to TransferWise, as soon as they enter their company name, DueDil's API will auto-complete their details, and in the background, it populates TransferWise's CRM with financial and firmographic data. This allows them to make immediate risk calculations and means that only the interesting, complex cases make it through to their credit managers, which means the credit managers are being used for the full power of their brains, and their training is being used rather than checking more obvious, easy to process companies. And the final area, the trend that we've been seeing is proactivity. This means you no longer need to wait for a one-off annual review to understand the status of a company or a group of companies that you're interested in. The traditional view of private company data is that companies file accounts once a year, and they only have to actually file the accounts 6 months after their end of year. So for new companies or for rapidly changing companies, the data quickly becomes stale, and everyone gets it at the same time. And this is a major driving factor in the way that research is often done on private companies. But actually, there's a lot that is changing about companies all the time, and it's not just in the number of companies that are started each day, which is a lot. There's a lot of other kinds of information about private companies which is more or less accessible, and is being updated more frequently than every 12 months, if not in real time. And we are seeing more and more sophisticated use, both with DueDil and with other tools, of this data to help make companies operate in a more sophisticated way. So something that I do when I visit our customers or prospective customers is try and work out where they are in this journey of what we call data sophistication, and then we help companies to move up that chain of sophistication. So this is a way, this sophistication scale is a great way for understanding where an individual business or competitor or a team within a business or an entire sector, where they are in on the scale towards more sophisticated data-driven decisions. So, for example, I'm not going to take you through each of these, but for unification, is the company just using a single source of data to understand its counterparties, or is it using multiple sources in a sequential manner, or is it using multiple sources at the same time? And each of those, we believe, is a more sophisticated use of data. And there's also a vertical logic to this, to these four scales. Without filtering, without unifying your data, you can't filter properly. You can't, and without filtering, without automating your filtering, you can't move more quickly. And without automation, you can't increase your proactivity and get to that to the bottom right corner where you can start to use the data to actually predict the behavior of your customers. And DueDil is definitely a tool that can help you move up these scales. And next up, Cedric's going to talk you through a few ways in which we do that.
Thanks, Andrew. So I'm product manager at DueDil, but before that, I actually had a brief but passionate moment working in finance myself, especially in private equity. And what I'm kind of remember from these years is actually very much this idea that data is just everywhere. If you have the time, like the luxury of the time to look for it, you'll actually get all the insights that you want, and quite often it's actually free. The problem is that you do need the time to uncover it. It seems easy at first to find the employees of a company on LinkedIn, or to find some financial information on company's house, or these kind of things, but when you add the hours to find 50 potential players in a given niche market, and then go to the next market, and then go to the next market, you waste so much time that most teams actually don't really have. And that's very much how we want to build DueDil, and how we've been building DueDil up to now, which is DueDil is a platform which unifies these data sets into what we hope is going to be for you a single source of truth. We think the value of these data sets doesn't come from them being, kind of on their own, but actually from linking them together and matching them together, so that when you look at a specific company or a specific market, all the information is already readily available. And that means that you have more time to focus on, the part that you're kind of paid to do, which is the analysis, the insight, or, the strategic decision that you want to make. So whatever the team that you're in, either you're a relationship manager, or in a sales and marketing team in a bank, or you're more on the deal origination and private equity side, or you're doing due diligence for complex deals or even credit applications, or finally you're monitoring a portfolio of suppliers or key clients, we think that a single unified platform can actually give you the information that you need to really, go further, enable the growth of your company, and kind of outperform the market, especially in uncertain times. So, enough chit chat. I want to kind of show you in real time what it can do. So I'll just switch to my brother, and here. So if you can all see it well, when you log on DueDil, the first thing you see is always your dashboard. The dashboard is the way to keep track of the most relevant companies that you want to work on today. So you have list of clients, list of opportunities, list of potential investments, and you want to know which one is active today or which one has relevant news today. But that's not the first part I want to show you. The first part I want to show you is actually our advanced search, which is available at the top. And if I click through, I'll be able to see the whole UK and Irish economy in just one click. So the key number to remember is this number at the top, which is 11.3 million companies. That's every single company, whether active or not, in the UK and Ireland. And if you compare that to something like LinkedIn, for example, they only have 8% of that coverage. They have less than 200,000 companies for the UK. So the reason we have this data is basically because we always look for the most trustworthy and scalable data set, and we match them together on a big scale. So let's say that you're selling financial services in a bank, and you want to find cash-rich companies, because it's very easy to find cash-poor companies. They're usually, ringing at your door asking for a loan, so that's very easy. But cash-rich companies have tremendous opportunities. It's a great market, very healthy margins, and that's something that everyone wants to, be at some point. So the first step would be to look for only active companies. So we go down to 3.9 million companies, which are all the active companies in the UK and Ireland. And then on the left, you have all the facets which are available in our advanced search. Now, I'm not going to show you all of them. It would take a bit more time than we have. But the idea is that it's very easy for you to iterate. The ideal customer that you want to pursue is not one click away. It's maybe 2 or 3 clicks away, and you have to refine it. But once you get that really good understanding of the product and market fit, or the service and market fit, you can be in a much faster growing business. You can close a lot more accounts. The quality of your leads will just increase tremendously. So if we look at the left, we have things that show kind of the data sets that we unify. So for example, we have the industry keywords, which very simply take a new stab at understanding what business do. So the original way was to use what we call SIC codes, which are the official classification, but they are notoriously bad. So the latest one date back from 2007, which is quite old now. And more importantly, many businesses don't even file a SIC code or file a very generic one like other business activities. What that means concretely is that if you're prospecting a market, or if you're looking for potential investment opportunities, you're missing 30-40% of the market that didn't bother file an SIC code. So what we did is that we did exactly what everyone does nowadays. We went to the website of the companies, and we kind of extracted the relevant keywords from there. But instead of doing it one by one, we do it on a large scale with data science. So on a scale of millions of websites every day. So here I can just type, something like e-commerce, and I'll be able to find all the e-commerce companies that exist in the UK. But for now, I'll just keep to the cash-rich company, if that's okay. So I'm going to go a bit further, and I have all the elements of the profit and loss and the balance sheet, but also key financial ratios at the bottom. So I'm going to say I want mid-sized companies. So I'm going to say something like 10 million to 50 million, let's say, in size. That's a reasonable size for me to target. I want companies which are not only cash rich but actually profitable. So one way to look at it would be, of course, the P&L, but I'd rather look for the balance sheet and make sure that the cash they have is not simply for a very much higher debt. So I'm going to say net assets are at minimum £2 million. That ensures that whatever cash they have is not simply there to service debt. And then we have financial ratios like the cash to total assets. So if I say that these companies have at least 50% in cash to total assets, but let's say less than 80%, so that we don't simply have bank accounts here, we have automatically filtered down the whole UK economy to just 1,200 results, which are mid-sized companies with cash in the bank. If you think that it only took me a few seconds and that these companies could be potentially very interesting for your financial services, that's how we use the numerous data sets that we combine to deliver superior results for your teams. Now, what's interesting is that you can see a diversity of companies here. You can see Ticketmaster, you can see the National Ballet, you can see, of course, investment groups. That's kind of something we would expect. You can see research groups. And that's something that is very interesting because, if you ask typically kind of, business managers which business are usually cash rich, they would tell you, well, retail is cash rich. So, let's go for fine retailers. But there's actually a wealth of companies out there that have very great profile. So you don't necessarily need these kind of proxies. You can just go for exactly the profile you want. And that's a much more diverse audience. So let's say for kind of to simplify it a bit further, that I was looking for these companies, but only in London. So I'll be, going for trading location, and I can type I can type a postcode, or I can just type London. I select the result, and I get down to 400 companies, which is a lot more manageable if I cover a specific area. Now, if we go a bit further than sales and marketing, and we go into more, origination, when I was a private equity analyst, like one of the things where I was asked was to give the big kind of key trends. Like, I have the key players in a niche market here already, but I need also the trends and what's happening. So we have different ways to do that. You have at the top, you have the map function. So I'm going to select it. It's not going to be as interesting here because I selected London. So I'm kind of guessing the results are okay. So we have registered and trading locations. So some companies are, of course, outside of London. But if I look for trading address, I can see how they concentrated, within London. And of course, somewhere around the city is very popular, but actually there's a lot more wealth in the Greater London as well. The other thing I can do is also go for the report, which will give you how they compare to the UK economy. So of course we know that turnover is between 10 and 50 million, but how do they, for example, compare in terms of cost of sales? How do they compare in terms of gross profit? And you get, if you can see the gray scale, that's the UK economy, and if you see the blue scale, that's the companies that you selected. So very quickly, I got an idea for how these companies are behaving and beyond the profile that I've already set. Now that's the first step. Let's say I want to know a bit more. The name of this webinar is to focus on the due diligence. So at some point, you want to focus more on a specific company. So I selected one company, which is actually one of these cash-rich companies a bit earlier today, and it's called .mailer. It's one of the results that you would get from the search. And I want to show you what you can get from a company profile. So when you go for a company profile, you always have first the vitals tab, which shows you kind of the key information on that company. That will be the turnover, how much they're growing. So 20 million turnover, 26% of growth. That's a very healthy business. 15 million in net assets is a very cash-rich business. So definitely something that we would be interested in. They have a description from multiple sources. So for this one, it's Wikipedia, but you can have Companies House description. You can have Crunchbase description as well. And you can see all the industry keywords at the bottom here that we selected for that company based on their website. You can see that they do digital marketing. It's basically an agency which offers different services, as we'll see a bit later on. And we can see where they're registered and where they're trading. So that's the vitals for you. There are different tabs at the top which will focus on specific types of information. And that's very much how we combine these data sets. Like we build specific kind of areas for you to focus on depending on your activity. So if you're a credit manager, you're going to look for the credit risk and you're going to get a credit report on that company. But let's say for now, I want to focus on the financials. So we know that they're making 20 millions in turnover and they're growing. That's great. But how are they doing historically? So if I click here, so first of all, I have 20 years of financials available. So I think this company is less than 20 years old. But if I click on a specific item like turnover, I'll be able to have a graph version of it in just a second. And we'll see how we can actually build an interesting profile of that company in just a few seconds. So, okay, they're growing in turnover. That's great. But are they more profitable? So I'm going to select EBITDA. And I can see that, well, actually, yes, the EBITDA went from less than $1 million a few years ago to 6.7 million in 2015. That's definitely a great company. But how are they achieving that? Are they just kind of hiring more and more? Actually, we can check that. We can check by, are they getting more efficient? So we can select revenue per employee and we can graph it to compare. And the revenue per employee is booming. And that's a great sign. Not only this company is growing, it is cash rich, that we know because we selected in the first place this way. It has more employees, but not to the point that it's less efficient. It's actually more and more efficient as it grows, and the EBITDA is very solid. I would say, if I had to invest money in a company, it would be a great target by any standard. So you have other tabs at the top. So credit, we talked about. People will show you everyone that works at that company through what we call DueDil Connect. I can answer some questions on that a bit later on if you want. Contact will show you the different offices that they have. I'm guessing for .mailer, it's going to be a single office. But ownership will show you the ownership and shareholder structure of that company. Now, I'm going to come back to this a bit later on because so you can see here, all the different directors that you have on these companies, their actual function in the company, how long they've been there, and what you want to look for if you're doing due diligence is especially on the right side. So this for example, this director has 14 open directorships. That's quite a lot of directorships, but they seem to be healthy because they have 0 retired and 2 closed. So that means that most of these businesses are still kind of living. So that's a positive sign. But sometimes you see totally different behaviors, and you see people with 16 closed businesses. That's usually a signal that you want to catch and you want to go further. Now, the philosophy of the kind of company profiler for DueDil is very much that the basic information is visible within a few seconds, so that if it's a good opportunity, you know it right away. And if it's a credit application, for example, you can just say, well, that's good. I can just approve that that specific one. Whereas if you see anything that you don't like, you can go further and further into analysis, and that's where you really deliver value for the company. We also have the shareholding structure. Now, for .mailer, it's not very interesting, so I'm just going to show you on another company, which is actually DueDil itself. We had several rounds of funding, so our shareholder structure is much more complex now. And we can see, the investors that we have, for example, how much share they own. And you can see different types of shares. So if I say, I only want the A preferred shares, I'm going to click here and it's going to select here. That's a new feature that we released about a month and a half ago. And we really think it's going to power, a new kind of due diligence in terms of understanding of ownership of a company. So finally, I want to show you the group structure. And the group structure is a way to know how the company is linked to other companies around it, especially, ultimate parents. But also you can see in the case of .mailer, it's actually very interesting. You understand the business just by looking at this group structure. You have a commerce, a .commerce one, a .survey, a .mailer, a .search, .seo, and .agency. Right now, you understand perfectly which are the activities of that company and how they're structured. And if you go to a specific one, you'll be able to see how much, the .seo is making compared to the rest of the group. So, if you're looking to invest in a specific element of the group that they might be selling, or if you just want to understand, how this company is structured, that's very easy to do so. If you were to do that with Companies House, you could potentially, but you would have to note down all the ownerships of every single entity and then link it by hand, which will take probably several days instead of 1 second. I'm just going to finish, conscious of the time, I'm just going to finish with the dashboard. Now, we put all these companies that we selected earlier in a list. And the idea of the list in DueDil is that the data is actually going to stay fresh compared to an Excel. You can, of course, export to Excel if you want. But the idea with the list is that you'll be constantly feeding from live company information. So if they change activity, if they just publish new accounts, all that information, or if they go into liquidation, you'll see that from your list right away. And the dashboard will help you actually monitor these companies. So at the left, we have all the lists that Andrew has built in the past. And we can see, for example, that he's looking at construction companies in London. And if I click here, I'm going to be able to see the latest news on these companies, which we match in real time. So we receive around 1 million news articles a day, and we match them in real time to companies. So within a few seconds, you'll have them in your dashboard. You can see the opportunities, which are positive events, things like new accounts, new board members or new directors, things that usually are kind of sales triggers or things that you want to get back in touch for. And then you have risk elements like new credit score. If you're mentioned in a court order, that's definitely something that you want to keep track of. Now, you can see it in your dashboard, but you can also see it via email as we send you kind of a weekly digest of what's happening, and we'll soon release on kind of a more configurable way for emails to go. So that's kind of the key ideas of what you can do on DueDil. If I go back very quickly to the presentation, we can see that we're going to expand on that platform in the coming months. So the first part is we're going to enable new ways to upload lists, not simply via the advanced search, but also by things like the CSV upload. That's going to be released very soon, actually. So you'll be able to just take an Excel file that you have, opportunities that you looked at 6 months ago or something like that, and just upload it, and the data will be matched and cleaned automatically and will stay live on DueDil. We're also building what we call featured lists. So even today, if you start a new account on DueDil, you'll be prompted with a few lists that we manually curated so that you can see, you can kind of see how DueDil works in just a few seconds and pick new markets very easily. For actually using those lists, we're pushing a new version of DueDil Connect. I didn't show DueDil Connect much in depth here, but basically it allows you to sync another data set, which is your email network, so that not only you, but your team can see your network. And you can say, okay, out of all the cash-rich companies that exist in the UK, how many have I contacted in the past and how many have I never contacted, neither me nor my team? And that's a very strong way of looking at your network and seeing companies that you never even considered before. We'll also publish new list reports and deeper collaboration on this list, so that you and your team can collaborate on a list of companies in a very niche market if you want, very easily. So if we're in a private equity kind of structure, like the analyst could build a list and share it with the partner in just a second, so that this data stays live forever. And also, and the more important part, we're bringing this on a much bigger scale, and that's where most of our resources are, of course, at the moment. So you saw 11 million companies a bit earlier on the UK and Ireland. By the end of the year, we aim to cover 50 million companies, and we'll grow that in the next couple of years to 500 million. And the idea behind that is that we're going to expand into more countries in Europe and then more countries in the world. So first by company profiles. So you'll be able to do your due diligence on these companies very easily, but then also into our advanced search with all the same facets that you've seen earlier. So that's it for the demo. We've finished a bit ahead of time, which is great because it gives you a bit more time to ask questions. So we'll take questions on the GoToWebinar kind of panel, and we'll read them and then we'll answer them. Okay. So we'll just give you a few seconds to type your questions. Sure. So we got a question around, okay, so the demo focused on finding companies to target. So how can we best use DueDil to monitor these companies when you already do business with? So one interface that I haven't shown much is the list interface. The idea with the list interface is that you can either manually select, company by company if it's a small kind of a small group, or you can select a whole industry through your advanced search, or soon you'll be able to upload an Excel file to that. You'll be able to build that list. That list is going to stay live on DueDil, but it's also triggering monitoring on the dashboard and monitoring on via email. So you'll receive automatically news on the companies, risk elements like new credit score, these kind of things in your email every morning. And that's what we think is a very strong way to be proactive for your business. Like when Andrew talked about being proactive, if you don't know that information, there's no way you can be proactive. So I'll just, we have quite a few questions coming in now. Okay, so can you indicate the cost? Of course, DueDil is an enterprise platform. So we start for at £5,000 per year in a 2-year contract. And the idea is you're going to be able to sync 5 people into that account. Now, the reason we think it's best for you to think of it as an enterprise is that if only one person has the information, then you're just creating bottlenecks. And we think that if your sales team has the information and your credit team has the right information, and you can share this list of new customers very easily, then it's going to make the whole company just fly. From that point, which is what we hope for all of you. So we have another question around kind of international data, but in a different way, which is, okay, so if you have a global company with a UK subsidiary, the financials, do they cover the UK subsidiary or the global entity? Now, in most cases, it will be for the UK subsidiary. It will depend on how they structure their account. So if the UK is not simply a subsidiary, but actually their parent company, and they want to kind of aggregate all their accounts into the UK, which from a tax reason would make quite a lot of sense, then we'll have the full financial data. If it's only a small kind of local subsidiary, then that will be for that country. But as we expand to more countries, just in a few months, you'll be able to easily navigate to other countries. So if they have their main parent in France, totally unbiased choice, then you'll be able to see the parent company there. Okay. So yeah, so I got another question around, how do you tailor the companies that you see in your dashboard? So maybe it's worth I show you just a site for 1 second. I can show you the list interface because it has quite a few questions that are coming around this. It can make sense. So just give me 1 second to switch to the DueDil again. So this dashboard, like this dashboard, which is Andrew's dashboard, you can see the list of companies that he cares about. Now, if I was to, let's say, go for a specific company like the dot mailer that I've seen a bit earlier, I could easily just click here to add it to a new list and say, okay, I'm going to be interested in this company for the webinar presentation. I'm going to just create a new list And in 1 second, it's not only created that list, but also added that element to the list. I'm going to go to my list here at the top, and I can see that my latest create list is here, the webinar presentation. Of course, it's going to be a single row, but I can see, .mailer, they're active in the UK. That's their website. You can see their contacts. You can see what they do, how old they are, where they're based. This kind of important information, which will be live at all time. Now, if I look at my dashboard, I'll start seeing the webinar presentation list, and this way I can say, okay, so if I go here, they don't have any recent news. But I'll be able to see, okay, that they have blog posts coming through, that they have a new credit score in 2015, this kind of information. And I'll receive that as we go by email now. So sorry, Andrew, you're going to be on .mailer from now on. And the other thing that you can do, and why DueDil is very much a team solution, is that you can actually share that list. So if I go to the list itself, I have a share button at the top right, which tells me, okay, what do you want to do with that list? And I can share it with everyone at DueDil. So, of course, for us, it's our own enterprise. Or if Andrew was kind and shared it with me, he can just type my name. And as we're in the same enterprise, he can share it here. And I'll start seeing that list in my account as well. So can you explain the tariffs one can use DueDil? So I'm guessing it's around the price information. So I'm more than happy after this to give you kind of the contacts of our sales team and to have a discussion for what makes sense for your own team. Will there be AML and sanction risk beyond credit checks? So the idea of going further into risk is something that we're looking at, but maybe more for next year. I think this year we're quite busy with going from 2 countries to 9 countries. So we prefer to kind of focus on that in next year and go in more depth. Okay, so we have actually a very good question here. Indeed, so someone is saying if the turnover is less than 6.5 million, companies will actually won't have to file for Companies House, and therefore we tend to look at trade debtors or creditors to prospect companies. And what kind of field do you have available? So actually, this is very true. Smaller companies in the UK don't have to file full accounts; they only have limited accounts. And what that means concretely is that, yes, we have all other elements of the balance sheet. We generally use net assets as a proxy for that, for size, so that you can have a good prospecting, even if they're too small to report any account. So yes, definitely other fields are available. We have 50 facets, so that's why I didn't show all of them. Okay, another good question around due diligence for sure. Does the group structure chart include the entities within the structure that are offshore? Yes, it does. So while you won't be able for now to see the actual accounts of these offshore companies because we don't cover these countries, in the group structure, if we know that the parent company is in any country, we'll actually show you that. So if it's in China, we'll show you a small Chinese flag. And this kind of thing. So, offshore parent holding are very easy to pick up. And if it's a negative sign for you, you'll be able to see it on DueDil. Okay. Now we have another question around another data set, which actually kind of shows very much the idea of creating a unified platform, if anything. Do you have funding amounts and rounds for companies in Europe? We don't focus on funding rounds for now. It's very much a data set that we consider for the future, and we know that it's available on the likes of Crunchbase. So we're in talks to kind of integrate that data later on. But for now, we want to focus on the 90% of companies which are definitely not startup and definitely not public companies. So you'll be able to see it because these companies usually have very high levels of cash. But we don't want to focus more on this. And the idea compared to kind of search, kind of research agencies that can exist around there, which was the second part of the question, is we think that the data presented in the right way can give you like already a lot of the insights that you're looking for. But the beauty of DueDil is that you define your own niche. You know where the data comes from. You know how to define it, and you're not relying on someone else telling you that the tech industry is of a certain way. If you want to exclude e-commerce because you don't think it's tech, you don't select that keyword. You select other keywords that you're interested in. You can refine your list further very easily. So we think giving you the right platform and giving you an easy to access information will actually help you build your own judgment and own insights, which doesn't undervalue what agencies do. It's just complementary in many ways. And I think that's it for the questions, and we're also running to the end. We wanted to really thank you all for your participation.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
And the questions were really great as well. So, we're more than happy to answer more questions and to put you in touch with some of our sales team. It's not simply a question of sales for us. It's also, we're very happy to, help you see where you are on that spectrum of using data and if there's room for us to help you or not. So, thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.